Hey, gorgeous. Welcome to the Bernadette Jackson Podcast, where we are redefining how the world views women with daddy issues by discussing topics, sharing stories, and gaining insights, all from the perspective of a fatherless daughter. I'm your host, Bernadette, the creator of Her Way Relationship Intensive and your favorite fear investigator. If this is your first time here, here's what I want you to know. The fear of abandonment and rejection is the lens through which fatherless daughters do most things. It informs how they show up in every relationship. Most fatherless daughters are operating in the fear of abandonment cycle, and they don't even know it. Each week, I focus on a topic that highlights how fear shows up in our lives, either through conversations with others or deep dives into the insights that I have. If you'd like to know if you're on the fear of abandonment cycle, go to BernadetteJackson.com/FOA cycle and take my free assessment. Again, that's BernadetteJackson.com/FOA cycle. So today we have Tony, who is a longstanding member in his church, where he serves as a Sunday school teacher, a minister, and a co-youth coordinator, among other positions. He has injected his passion for artistry into the youth by allowing them to write plays, create talent shows, and put together an annual youth day that serves the surrounding community. Tony does this while instilling in every child the importance of knowing God for oneself. Over the last few years, he has had the opportunity to return to the stage to embody Detective Kane's complex character. The latter also serves as the head deacon of his church in the hit stage play, Losing My Religion, written by Shirley Hatwood. Tony is a co-chair of Legacy Men's Empowerment Group. And during COVID, he spent his time becoming certified as a life and relationship coach and gained his master's certification as an NLP practitioner. Tony has created the Triumphant TV series, the Real Shop Talk series, where he is a co-host, and he has joined forces with Jennifer Hurt to co-host her brainchild, Monday Wake Up. Tony is a firm believer in the village. He believes it is his calling rather, to bring the village to our communities. Tony, it is a real pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, Bernadette, like I said earlier, I appreciate the fact that you've invited me here. I love your work. I think your work is very important. I actually think your work should be in schools because we need to understand what that disconnect is. One of the things that I'm working on, and hopefully, no, that will be put forth in 2022, is that there will be a panel discussion where we take women, put them on one side, and men, put them on the other side, and basically ask the same question to each. And at the end of the weekend, we bring them together and show them how they line up together. And your information to have to sit down and talk to men about how they're not showing up in their homes affect the answers that women are going to give. So I think your book is very important on that level. I think it's very important that school kids, especially when you talk about how you began dating with the intention of pleasing. And so whatever the man wanted, you attach to that style. And we're seeing a lot of that in our communities where women are going above and beyond when the guy really doesn't care. Right. And they're doing that because they're looking for something to attach to. And on the other side of the spectrum, we have boys out here playing Let's Collect Women based on getting attachment, finding out a way that daddy could appreciate us and accept us. So your book is very important.
Yeah, wow, like all of that sounds amazing. And I can't wait for that panel discussion to happen because I really do want to see what the juxtaposition is going to be of like the men's responses versus the women's. And I feel like a lot of it is probably going to be more common than we think.
Exactly.
And once we see that, I think that it's going to now be able to kind of take down this barrier of us feeling defensive and judgmental and really just start asking the questions like, you know, what happened to you? What's your story? And show empathy. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. That sounds cool.
if we can learn to give grace as human beings,
Mm,
we'll get a lot further. Unfortunately, the manosphere, the womensphere is they're both talking about who's wrong,
yeah.
and it's an all aspect. All men are wrong, or all women are wrong. And if we don't approach people as individuals, because we all want to be approached as individuals, and if we don't do that, then we're going to constantly be lost in what we're doing. And I think that's very, very dangerous to our community. I just saw a survey where we're between men are 49, 40, black men are 49% to be single, black women are 65% to be single. And I think that's based on, again, all of this disinformation that's going on, that we're so different. And, men are part of black men are part of the patriarch, and black women have done it by themselves for billions of years, and we don't love each other, and men don't have emotions, and women have too many emotions.
Hmm.
It's all of this nonsense that's going on. And if we learn to look at each other as human beings that has a lived experience, then we will change the narrative of how we approach people. But don't get me wrong, there's going to be those people that's psychopathic, that just want to use people. Those people will exist. We can't get away
Right.
from those people. But the majority of people are going to want to have lasting, strong relationships and be able to
Yes.
communicate. That's what I think is important.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. And that's actually one of the things that I tell my clients when I'm talking to them, because I really feel like they have this idea that the men in their life don't want them to be happy. And I'm like, that can't be further from the truth.
Right.
Like, if you're in a relationship with a man, trust me, he wants you to be happy. And if you tell him exactly what that playbook is to get you there, please believe he will do it. Like they want you to be happy.
Right.
They want to be the reason why that you're happy. So
Exactly.
I get it. I get it. So let's jump in. So
Okay.
you're a girl dad. How many daughters do you have?
I have two.
Two daughters. Okay. And how long have you been a girl dad?
23 years. One is 23, one is 17. 18, no, she's 18 now. Whoa, 18.
Ooh, okay. So you got two adult women that you have fathered. Wow.
Adult women, absolutely. And they are
Wow.
amazing. They are
Mm-hmm.
absolutely amazing. They have taught me so much. Um, and I just got through talking about this on Saturday. A really, really good friend of mine's had her 30th birthday. And we spent some time celebrating her, gathering some friends up to come up and speak about her. And everybody across the board kind of said the same thing. She's just a wonderful person. And when her mother spoke, right, her mother pointed out all that she had learned from her, right? All that she
Mm.
had taught her, and help her to see and give grace to people, because she's such a beautiful person. And when they gave me the mic back, because I was emceeing that particular part, I looked at the younger people who were there, and I said, you have to understand, this parenting thing is a two-way street. We understand the dangers that you're going through, but we're learning from you. I said, what her mother has said is so impactful, because we are learning from you. We're learning the blind spots that we had. You're showing us things that we did not see. That does not make us right or wrong in our approach to bring you up in the right way, but it does show us that there are things in the world that we don't know and that we can learn from you. So stop being so, rough on your parents, and, putting your foot down that, oh, that was that generation. You guys didn't know better. You guys didn't do this better. No, we know. We know. Just give us an opportunity to learn. And when you have kids, you'll find out you'll be in the same space to learn something that you didn't know.
Yeah, definitely. So speaking of that, what do you think being a girl dad taught you about yourself and about girls in general?
That I was a piece of sugar honey iced tea.
Oh.
So when I had my first daughter, I literally cried for about a day and a half to myself, because
Mm.
I could see all of the pain and hurt that I had caused. And how was I going to protect her from that? How was I going to protect her from me?
Mm.
What could I tell her to protect her from me? So that was pretty trying. Um, so she taught me that, and she's outstanding woman. Um, both of them, again, are brain children. I guess they get that from their mama. Uh, um, in middle school, they were both accepted to the John Hopkins Gifted program.
That's
So
awesome.
I'm extremely proud of them. My sons are brilliant too. They're both are brilliant. I'm being a parent. Being a parent. My kids are better than everybody else's kids. You know, my kids are geniuses. I'm just being a parent. I love them. I love them to pieces. So yeah, being a girl dad, that's what it taught me. It taught me that we don't know what we think we know, and we've done a lot of hurt to the female species by our libidos and our egos.
That's saying something. Yeah, that's saying something. So, do you think that having girls has changed your view on how you treat women?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
How do you think? Tell
Absolutely.
me a little bit about that.
Um, First, uh, not to discredit the women who I grew up under. They were all strong. Most were all very strong women, and gave me or try to teach me to have respect for women. Right. I've never put my hands on a woman. Right. So, but that doesn't mean I wasn't abusive.
Mm,
Right. Um, so my daughters taught me I had to be sensitive. They showed me that there's a sensitive approach to what they need. I could not treat them exactly how I treated the boys, especially when it's the tone in my voice and yelling and screaming and being very aggressive with them. It taught me that there's a softer pattern to them. They my kids were boys and girls were raised the same way as far as me talking to them about life, but there's a different um, approach to discipline for a woman versus a boy, right? And sometimes there's a middle ground where they both are equal, and you have to be very sensitive to who your kids are. Like, kids are individuals, and you can't train them each the same way, right? So the things that I thought my oldest daughter could endure because she's so smart and she was so responsible, I learned later on she didn't like it because she felt that there was favoritism to the others
mm,
because she could handle some things. So until you start having those conversations, and you got to be real about it, you got to give them the space to really tell you about yourself and tell them why they feel the way they feel. Um, we had my daughter, my oldest daughter's name is Jade, and her older brother is named Darius, and her and him used to go back and forth. And Darius is a tech, he's a tech guru, right? He wants to build video games and all that stuff. So he's not a sarcastic person. Like, he does quick sarcastic thing doesn't come for him.
mhm.
So, but Jade is like me. She's quick with the tongue and she's brutal with it, like slice, slice, slice. So one day she was talking like, Darius got this, Darius got that, and Darius this, that, and the other. I was like, you know how much Darius loves you? I was like, stop. Think about the way you treated him. So how is he supposed to respond when he's not as quick as you? He has to go to the extreme with you. Like, you got to understand that how you react and what comes out of your mouth sometimes is venomous. So if he doesn't know how to respond like you respond, he's going to go to an extreme level to respond to you. I said, but what you have to remember is every time it came to a situation to protect you, he was the first one in line to do it. No matter how you treated him, he was the first in line to do it. And she took a minute to think about that, and she came to the realization that that was right.
Yeah. Okay, so then would you say that your relationship with your daughters has improved the relationships that you have with other women in your life?
That's a great question. I don't know. Um, Improved? I Thinking about it, I gotta say yeah. I gotta
Mm,
really thinking about it. I gotta say yeah, because you when you approach the world as these are my treasures, right? And I don't want anybody to treat them wrong. You're going to treat everybody else's daughters, wives, mothers, sisters, aunts, and cousins the same way. I don't want anybody I won't treat them wrong, so no one will treat my daughters wrong. So that was a great question. I never thought of that before. Fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
that's awesome. Okay, so then why don't you describe your relationship with your daughters? I know you said that your oldest is just as quick-witted as you, but what about your youngest? What is the relationship like with them?
Um, okay. My oldest, I think she's a lot like me, in a lot of aspects. Quick-witted. Uh, she doesn't take any crap. She's calculating. She's very smart. Not saying I'm smart, but she's very smart. She views the world in such a abstract way, such a broad way. When she was, I believe she was 10 or 12, and her mother used to work over down by Wall Street, and we went to pick her up one day, and I'll always remember this so vividly. It was dusk. Um, there was a lot of papers down on Wall Street blowing around, and she's just staring at the car, and I'm like, JD, what's wrong? She goes, Daddy, when I am mayor, there will be a cleanup day that we will take off for lunch until 3 o'clock, and everybody will clean up their area. This is disgusting. There's no way New York should look like this. So, and she's very political. I had to talk her off the ladder one day when she was one of the Black Lives Matter protests in Manhattan, and she
Hmm.
was down the protest. She was really adamant about going. I was like, honey, you've got to fight the system from inside. I said, think about what you're about to do. You're about to go downtown, get in some cop's face or get in somebody's face. They're going to arrest you. Now you're in the system. You have to
Right.
pay the system to get out. I said, why go do all of that? I said, you're smarter than that. Organize your friends and find other ways, become a voting block. And once you become a voting block, then you can you can vote the people who are not doing what you want to do out. She kind of gravitated to that, and she didn't go. So that was a great experience. The younger one, Asia, that's a whole different ballgame. She is her mother, but a different version of her. Um, she is such a bundle of joy that I used to say the first person that breaks her heart, I'm going to hurt them badly, because she was so bubbly. Now, I'm in the middle of getting a divorce. So, and this goes back to the other question, how has my daughters taught me about women? And for years, I just said that the person who takes her joy away, I'm going to blah, 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 blah. And then somebody said, my best friend is like, well, when you met Barbara, wasn't she a bundle of joy? Didn't you take her joy away?
Ooh, ooh, ah, that cut me deep. Woo.
It did. It did. It cut very deep. It cut very deep. But it's the reality of having really good people around you who can hold the mirror up and go, you talk all of this wonderful crap, but look at yourself.
Mm.
You're ready to go do this, but look at yourself. And so my daughter Asia, she went through some challenging times over the last 2 years, and and she might say no, but I think it was part of her challenging times was part of my disconnection with her moms. Like we were two different places, and our moms were seeing things and not hiding things, but because we didn't talk, she didn't tell me some stuff that I
Mm.
could have helped out in the beginning when it was happening. And I think that and I kind of blame myself for that and say I'm the one who stole that part of her joy. But we're working on getting it back to her.
Yeah, I mean, as you're talking just now, I'm just wondering if Asia is internalizing some of what has happened as, maybe being her fault in some way.
Uh, they don't. I don't think they look at it as their fault. But if you're not parenting from a if you're not parenting from a level of unity, right?
Mm.
No matter how you feel about each other, you're hurting. You're going to hurt your kids. Your kids are going to be affected.
Yeah.
This parenting is village work. It's village work. No matter
Right.
no matter if the dad's not in the house, mom's not in the house. This is village work. And if you're not looking at it from the same lens, you will affect them. because kids are smart. They'll learn how to play the middle of the field. They learn how to like,
Mm.
oh, let me go over here and get this, and I'll go over here and get that, and they learn how to play the middle of the field. And when you, for me, for a long time, I was emotionally detached from everybody.
Mm.
I just going through the motions. You got to go to, I'll show up at your games. I'll do this, that, and the other. But there was an emotional attachment that I should have been more keen to, so I could have saw more things and help some things not happen. So.
Hmm. So then going a little bit deeper with that, do you feel like just over the course of the years that you have had to search yourself and maybe your views, your beliefs, your habits to make sure that you're intentional about raising your daughters, and specifically now with this time where things are changing between you and their mom, how has that had to really change your intentionality with them?
You got to be more present. You got to be more present. You got to be present. You got to let them know that you love them. More hugs, more forehead kisses, more tough conversations.
Mm.
Sometimes you got to have those conversations that that neither one of you are going to agree with, but you got to have the conversation.
Right.
You got to have the conversation. You can't be afraid to have the conversation either. And I think a lot of kids, I think a lot of parents right now, one of the reasons why these kids are going so buck wild or afraid to have these tough level conversations. We want to keep it to ourselves, and we're not sheltering them. We're harming them because we're not teaching them boundaries. We're not teaching them that this world wants to gobble them up, and we're not teaching them how much we actually love them by being silent in some of the things that they do.
Right. I completely agree there. And so you mentioned early in the conversation, you said that when your oldest daughter was first born, you cried because you could see all of the hurt that you caused. Do you think that that realization has made you face yourself in terms of how you view women, how you handle them, and what you have needed to do or who you needed to be in order to be your daughter's dad?
Um, Another great question. I think time and raising them has taught me that. I think that
Mm.
it wasn't that one incident didn't change automatically. It wasn't like a aha moment. Okay, stop smoking cigarettes today. It wasn't.
Right.
Okay, I'm gonna become a social smoker now. Like what I mean. Like you still did the nonsense that you did, but you did it more sparingly. And then it came to
Mm.
a point where you just stopped and like, okay, even though this person, being a female, treats herself wrong, doesn't mean you have to contribute to the actions. And if you know her well enough, you should be able to sit down and talk to me like, just want to give you a hint, sis, you don't have to do that.
Mhm.
You don't have to, um, I've had a lot of conversations with women who dress a certain way. And I'm not telling you how to dress. I'm telling you from a man's standpoint what he sees first,
Mhm.
right? And I know it might be wrong for him to prejudge, but we all do it. Like when you see a group of young men with their pants sagging down, walking down the block, right? You instinctively, if you're by yourself, you're gonna walk across the street. Those group of men could be nerds, video game builders, and you don't even know it. But because
Right.
you're looking at that sight, it becomes a problem. One of my Chris Rock is not Chris Rock. Dave Chappelle is the genius of our times as far as comedians is concerned. And he once had a special when he first came out, and he said, he said, I'm not trying to tell women, what you wear is wrong. But he said, you're wearing a uniform. So when you're in the club with the tatas hanging out and the short skirts and this, that, and the other, he said that's a streetwalker's uniform. He didn't say that word, but he said
Mhm.
the streetwalker's uniform. So he said, imagine me getting up one day and going out with a cop's uniform, right? And he said, hilarious. He goes, somebody runs up to me and goes, a cop, I need a cop. Hey, you're a cop. He said, just because I'm wearing a uniform doesn't mean I'm how women say, no, time out. How women say, just because I'm wearing this doesn't mean I'm that type of person. So
Uh-huh.
his understanding was just because I'm dressed like a cop doesn't mean I'm a cop. So he's trying to tie that look in that what we see visually, right? we don't go, oh, that person might have a great brain. They read books. No, we see, wow, that might be fun. And we have to really, we have to take that in consideration. Like, listen, my wife, when I met her, wore all kinds of stuff. And I never tried to change it from what she wore, because that's how I met her.
Mm.
And I think that's another thing that especially young men should understand, is that when you're on this internet and you're meeting women on the internet, and everything they post is a certain way, when they get with you, you cannot say now you need to change that. That's how you met them.
Right.
That's what you signed up for, buddy. That's what you signed up for. So you've got to respect her space, and then at some point, if she feels like she needs to change, she'll change.
Before we get back into this week's goodness, I want to invite you to join my private Facebook community, H.E.R Coalition. I make it my business to create safe spaces for fatherless daughters to learn, grow, and heal, and H.E.R Coalition does just that. We go deeper into conversations about the things that we discuss here on the podcast. I teach a new topic weekly, we share stories, and we just support and love each other. It's a space I wish I had growing up, when I was clueless about how my fatherlessness affected me and yearning for a deeper connection. But I was just too paralyzed with the fear of rejection. Healing happens in community with like-minded and like-hearted people, and I would love to be in community with you. So join H.E.R Coalition at BernadetteJackson.com/community. The ladies of H.E.R Coalition get to choose the topic of weekly discussions, they get exclusive access to events, and first dibs on all that my brand has to offer. So again, join me in H.E.R Coalition at BernadetteJackson.com/community. I agree with you there. I don't think that it is wise for you to try and change anyone. And honestly, like, doing that is going to be more frustrating for you than it is going to be for them anyway. Because they may try to appease you in the moment, but who they are is still going to bubble up to the surface, and you're going to be sitting up here trying to have conversation after conversation about this thing you want them to change, instead of either accepting that this is what it is and this may never change, or making the decision to exit because it's not something you can deal with. Like, it's one or the other.
Thank you. Thank you. That's so powerful. If you can't handle it, leave.
Yeah.
Leave.
You have the choice.
Right.
You got the choice there.
You have the choice. Absolutely.
Yeah. So what is it that you want your daughters to learn about men as a result of their relationship with you?
That all men should respect their space, and they are as smart as any other person on the planet.
I love that. I love that. And why don't you tell me about maybe a piece of advice that you don't want your daughters to forget?
That my love would split the planet for
them. Okay. I like that. And they know what that means, and they know that they can come to you for everything. I love it.
Fully understand. They might not, there's times where I'm like, why didn't you tell me? But
right.
I got to give them the space to be who they are.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
My youngest one's told me she's going through something, and I was like, well, you need to tell me, blah, blah, blah. She's like, you're not my therapist. And all of the work that I've done, I had to sit in that and go, right. I'm a therapist.
Right. Wow. And you know what? That's a hard pill to swallow, because as parents, you really hard
pill to swallow.
Yeah, you really want to be the one to give them all the answers. So it's like, ooh, okay.
I was like,
Uh-huh.
It's like, do you know do you understand what I know?
Exactly.
In my head,
and the funny,
I know.
Right. Yeah. And the funny thing is that as much as we know, and even if they experience it a little bit, they still don't want to hear from us. That's the
Nope.
thing.
Mm-mm.
Like they don't. My daughter will secretly be listening to things that I say, and like sometimes will bring it back to me in conversation. Well, mom, you talked about boundaries. I'm like, oh, okay, so this is what we're doing now.
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
All
Absolutely.
right, but when I'm telling you about something else now, you want to look at me like I have 10 heads. Like I don't know what I'm talking about. So
It
it's crazy. Like
is. It is.
that
What's
dichotomy is kind of crazy.
What's also funny is that, and it stems from, I call it these Febreze effect, when we go
Mhm.
nose blind to things, right? Our kids become not disrespectful and insensitive, but they become deaf to our continuous telling them something, right? And they'll go and hear something outside of the house and come back and go, "Did you know what I learned today? Blah 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 blah." And I go, "But I told you that 1,000 times." "No, you
Right.
didn't, Dad." Like, I got a journal with notes in it that I told you.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, honestly, some of the conversations that my daughter and I have, I'm like, you know what? Let's document this because we're not going to do this again.
Right.
I'm going to
Right.
document this. Let's get the time and the date. You're going to sign it. I'm going to sign it so that we know we talked about this and this is what we decided. So I definitely get it. What do you think you could do better as a father with?
Um, Before or now?
You can answer both or
Okay.
whichever one feels best for you.
Before, I could have been more emotionally attached,
Mm,
emotionally involved, from an emotional standpoint, not just a presence, like emotional, because like we did on my show, um, uh, Triumphant TV, Fatherless Homes. We went on. No, I'm sorry, we did this on the Real Shop Talk. We talked about how there are dads in the homes that are absentee fathers
yes,
because they're not emotionally attached.
absolutely.
That's because you are there. That doesn't mean you are there.
Right.
So there's an emotional standpoint that I had, that I wish I could have. If I could go back in time, I would be present.
Mm.
I'd be present emotionally.
Honestly, like that is the kind of realization that I think that a lot of fathers really need to come to
Mhm.
because there's about 84 million women and this is a statistic that's a few years old that self-identify as fatherless daughters and a large percentage of that
Living
have
the house,
had their fathers in the home the
right?
entire time.
All the time, right?
And it's like
And
you
or the father has been buying them stuff because he
right,
thought his money was
right,
an attachment.
that's it.
and,
That's it.
and he was a present. They were single. He was a single dad. He was single moms, but he was always around the daughter. But he was, every time he went around her, what can I go buy you?
Hmm.
We're gonna do this. We're gonna go do that. There was never a time where you sat down and just spent time together. And
Yeah.
without that emotional bonding, that hug, that just sitting and listening, attentively, not on your phone, not talking to other people while you're around them. They don't have that attachment, then you're not actually there.
Yeah. Yeah. You honestly you said it perfectly. So then with that then, what advice would you give to a young girl who's growing up without her father? What would you say to her?
Wow, I almost said something to get me in a whole lot of trouble. Um, just because I haven't built the capacity yet to keep that promise.
Mm,
Um, that's rough. I would say first, and this is difficult because we live in such a weird spiritual generation. A lot of people looking within to solve problems that they they can't solve from within. The answers are always from without. So Jesus Christ is the answer. So if you can you can stake your flag there, then you'll be fine. I'd start there, and then seek out mentors in the community. I would seek out first female mentors that are strong, who could guide you to a respectable male mentor. Don't just go out and look for one yourself because you don't have that male figure. You haven't figured out who is protecting you and who is preying on you. So you have
But
to find a good matriarch to say this is a safe person,
mm,
and then you get around that type of community, and then you can go that way, because that's a very difficult question to answer, especially in times like that we live in.
yeah. Yeah, and it's difficult because, a lot of what we know about women with daddy issues is negative.
Right.
It's a very negative connotation. So, even with that, what's the first thing that usually comes to your mind when you hear someone say, "Oh, this woman has daddy issues"? What do you normally go to first?
Listen, when we were hunting, and if you had daddy issues, we knew exactly what was going down. Like you had no limitations to what could be done.
Wow.
There was no
Wow.
limitation, especially between 11th grade through college. Like that whole, now I'm free out on my own. I don't have anybody telling me what to do. Nobody looking over my shoulder.
Mhm.
The the inhibitions were endless.
You know what? Like you're saying that and I'm laughing nervously because I'm like, oh, like I know how true that is.
Yeah.
Like I get that. I'm very transparent with my story and stuff like that. And I tell people all the time that one of the things that is very prevalent in the fatherless daughter community is promiscuity.
Mhm.
And a lot of it has to do with the idea that um a particular woman feels like her body is like the biggest asset that she can give, and it's going to be the quickest thing to get a man to value her in the
Yep.
way that she has not been valued by her father.
Yep.
And so it's like, when she doesn't yet know that she has to heal from that wound and that there's so much work that needs to be done before she can start to see herself the way God sees her, she really is just doing any and everything to get the kind of love that she did not get from her dad. And so
Right.
that statement is so true. And the amount of men who understand this and know exactly how to prey on that, exactly what to say to activate these inhibitions, exactly what to do, like it's astounding.
Yeah,
It's
no.
astounding.
Like we said on our last Real Shop talk, it's a serial killer predatorial behavior.
Hmm.
You understand what your prey needs. You understand the activities of your prey, because knowing that all women are not the same, but they're patterns. Everybody has a pattern. And you
Mm-hmm.
pick up on the pattern, you sit back and just, okay, let me see if I push this button, what happens next? Let's see if I push that button, what happens next? And all of a sudden, now you're lost in this, and the female is lost in this in this dichotomy of trying to please somebody who's just there for her body,
Right.
not care for anything
Right.
out of her flesh.
Right.
And now she's running around, you know, person to person trying to find this connection.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are generally offering a connection, but it's a connection that's about a take. It's not a connection about a give. It's a connect about a take. Take. I need you to do this for me. I need you to do that for me. I need you to do other things for me. And it's a very selfish environment. And I think men need to understand that we cause a lot of damage when we're not present. Um, for both sides of the fence, when we're not present together as a union to raise these kids, we are the damage that we're doing. I, sometimes my optimistic self think we might have gone too far,
Mm.
and there's no one on the planet more optimistic
Really? That's a bold statement.
than me. Very optimistic.
Okay.
If you knew the patterns of my life right now, you'd be like, yo, I just didn't even on this call.
Hmm. You might be right. You
Yeah.
might be right. So I have loved talking to you. And before we end, I like to do this last segment where I ask you 5 rapid fire questions, and
Mhm.
it's called Bernadette's Quick Five. You don't really have to think about the answer. Just tell me the first thing that pops into your head. There's no wrong answers. You ready?
I guess so.
Okay. Would you be happy if your 18-year-old daughter brought home the 20-year-old version of you?
Yes and no.
Okay. Do explain that.
No, because I wouldn't want her to experience that. And yes, because I would explain to her how to handle it. Because I know all his
Hmm.
patterns. I know how he works. I wrote the book. So here's the manual. This is what he's going to do next.
Okay. Okay. So you kind of want her to just get that practice out in the field so that she doesn't get bamboozled by anyone else that's like that. That's what you mean?
Yeah, no, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. I can dig it. I can dig it. What is your hope for your daughters?
Um, that at some point in their lives, they will find God. They will truly
Hmm.
have an experience with God.
I love that. How would you like to be affirmed as a father from your daughters?
Standing over my casket saying my dad was everything.
Hmm. What about here while you're still alive? Forget the casket.
Just keep giving me kisses on the forehead and tell me you love me.
Okay. Okay. Love that. Love that. What warning did you give to the young man who took your daughter out on her first date?
Well, well, um, my daughter don't date me. My daughters don't date me. So
Okay.
uh, we've never had the conversation I had with them about dating is
Hmm.
that successful relationships are built on communication and honesty.
Okay.
So
That sounds good. I like that. And then the last question is this. What form of protection would you give your daughter to keep them safe in the streets when they're not with you?
that's a hard one. Outside of the prayers that I have, awareness. That's what I gave them, awareness. That they
Okay.
have to be aware of their surroundings. Like we're driving down the street sometimes, I go, did you see blah, 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 blah? No, I'm like, you have to be aware. Perfect example. My daughter Jade went to a party in Brooklyn and it was in a warehouse district. And I could tell by the way the buildings were set up that this didn't have that the exits would be funky if they had any exits at all.
Hmm.
So I told her to wait in the car. I went in and found all the exits. I found out what the bathrooms look like and all of that stuff. And this was the first time that she went to Brooklyn and was going with friends. So
Mm-hmm.
I went back and I sat down and told her, I said, all right, if there's any problems, here's this door, here's that door. Don't run out the front door. The front doors, everybody's going to go out the front door. Don't go out the front door. Go um, to this particular door. The bathrooms are co-ed. Always go with your girlfriend. Always make sure you have company when you go to the bathroom. So that's kind of kind of protection like that I gave them. How to be observant around their surroundings and how to understand what their space is. So if
Hmm.
somebody's around their space, they can say, no, I don't, I'm uncomfortable. You're making me uncomfortable. So
I love that. I don't think I have ever had an opportunity where a man has like take me to a party and was like, hey, this is where all the exits are. This is, what the plan is, should something happen and all of that. So I love that you do that for your daughter. I love that.
but I want to give you a caveat though. Any man that you've gone to a party with or to a club with, he is observing while you're having fun freely. He's
Hmm.
observing every danger that's going on around you. He's already picked out exes. He's picked out the so-called thugs. He's picked out the weirdo in the crowd. He's picked
Mm-hmm.
out the drunk dude that's touching everybody. He's picked all of that out, but he's not telling you because he wants you to continue to have fun.
Hmm. Okay. So that's silent protection that we were talking about the other day.
That's silent protection.
Love it. Okay. I like that. Tony, thank you so much for coming on the show.
No,
I
thank you
want to
for having me, man. For real.
course, of course. I want to give you the opportunity to just say one final thing if you would like, and then let us know where we can find you on social media.
The one final thing I will say, and it's something I'm gonna start pushing more of, is everybody out here right now is arguing about Christianity's true or falseness. They're arguing it from the scriptures have been tainted here, tainted there. but nobody's arguing about the resurrection. And that's the core tenet of the gospel. You cannot deny the resurrection. So go find this personal experience with Jesus for yourself. You find out it's real, and you find out the Bible is more African than it is European. And if you run around saying, and if you're fighting Christianity because you think it's a white man religion, you're fighting the wrong fight.
Hmm. Thank you so much for that. And where can people find you?
You can find me at realshoptalk.net, realshoptalk.net. All of my platforms are there, along with the Real Shop Talk. We are there, and all of their platforms are there as well. I partnered up with 4 incredible young men that are doing this work, each and every one of them. Rick Guntherman, you've had on your show before. Derek, Derek. You've had him on the show, Relationship Gumbo. Tony Massey, I'm pretty sure he's going to be here at one point or another. John is Help Thyself Podcast. Tony Massey Speaks. Tony Massey Cooks. Tony Massey Shoots now, because the dude's like just a regular connoisseur of all things. And we all do this relationship work from one level or another. And just go check it out. Like I said, realshoptalk.net, realshoptalk.net. You'll get all our platforms there, and come join the movement. We are the counter discussions against the manosphere and the womensphere. We're the middle ground. We are the coming together. We are the glue that will bring our communities together and rebuild this village.
I love it. Thank you so much. And everyone, you have heard it here, realshoptalk.net. You can definitely go there. I have heard and have been a part of some amazing conversations with them. They are a really progressive group of men who are doing the work out here to change the narrative about the way we experience men and the thoughts that they have. So I love it. Thank you for coming, and we will see you next week. Bye.